Imagine your favorite book, maybe the one you go back to over and over, or that song where the lyrics just speak to you. Now, picture that creative work, something someone poured their soul into, just being kind of scooped up, used without permission to train something really powerful, something that might even learn to copy that unique style. So, where is the line between amazing innovation and, well, stealing? Welcome to the deep dive. We cut through the noise to get you the insights that matter. Today, we're diving deep into a really big legal case, one that sent honestly huge ripples across the whole AI world. We're talking about Anthropic, the company behind the Claude AI, and a massive copyright lawsuit that just reached a pretty major resolution.
Yeah, and our mission today is basically to unpack this settlement between Anthropic and a group of authors. It's quite pivotal. We'll get into the allegations, which were pretty serious, the legal back and forth, the resolution they reached. They're calling it historic. And crucially, what does this all mean? What are the implications for AI development going forward and for protecting creative work? It's a really fascinating look at how new tech forces us to rethink, some very old rules. And the heart of it really is this tension. How do these AI companies get the massive amounts of data they need to train their models? In this case, authors accused Anthropic, saying they used millions of pirated books without permission, without paying licensing fees. And that directly hit their ability to make a living. So this wasn't just some small disagreement. No, it was a fundamental challenge to how a whole industry was getting its raw material, basically, and made everyone pay attention.
Okay, let's really get into the scale of this lawsuit. Because it wasn't just significant, it was huge. The claim was that Anthropic illegally used over 7 million pirated books for Claude. 7 million. Just think about that number for a second. It's staggering. And our sources say these weren't just random books found online. They allegedly came from huge pirate libraries like Bibliotic and Library Genesis. These are like notorious sites specifically for sharing copyrighted stuff without permission, millions of books. It really drives home the scale, doesn't it?
It really does. And what's fascinating, beyond just the sheer number you mentioned, is the potential legal fallout. This was apparently the largest copyright class action in U.S. history ever. The potential damages, if it had gone all the way, we're talking almost $750 billion.
Yeah.
Billion with a B. Just to give you a sense, copyright law allows for statutory damages per work infringed. Multiply that by 7 million. Well, you see how it gets astronomical fast. It really highlighted the massive legal risk these companies were running using data like that.
And you can absolutely see why the authors felt so strongly. Their argument was clear and pretty personal, right? They were saying Claude AI, trained on their books, could then spit out content that competes with them, maybe even mimics their style, that directly hits their income, their livelihood. So what does that mean for the actual human creators, the writers?
It really throws this tension into sharp relief, doesn't it? This incredible speed of tech advancement versus the need to protect, human creativity and its value. It's a fight over who gets to benefit from creative work.
Right, but here's where it gets really interesting, because the legal path wasn't straightforward. You'd think, okay, 7 million pirated books, that sounds pretty bad. But then a judge, U.S. District Judge William Alsup, made a ruling. He initially called Anthropic's use exceedingly transformative. That gave them a kind of partial win, legally speaking, which sounds odd, right? How is using pirated books transformative? What does that even mean when an AI is learning from copyrighted stuff?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the $750 billion question.
Yeah.
That ruling really started pushing the boundaries of how U.S. copyright law sees AI training. The judge seemed to lean towards the idea that training is transformative because the AI isn't just copying the books. It's supposedly extracting patterns, language structures, statistical things to build its own underlying capability.
Like an artist studying techniques.
Kind of, yeah. Like learning how to paint, not just copying a painting. But, and this is a big but, that line gets incredibly blurry when the AI can then generate stuff that feels very, very similar to the original works it learned from.
Right.
So yeah, the ruling highlighted this complex legal gray area. These are totally new questions for the courts.
Exactly. So they get this partial win, this transformative use angle, but they still settled. That seems really significant to me. If you have a legal argument working for you, why not push it? Why settle? What was the risk that made them decide, okay, let's make a deal?
Well, looking at the big picture, even with that partial victory, the risk didn't vanish. Not at all. The potential $750 billion liability, it was still hanging over them like a storm cloud. For any company, it's potentially game over.
Existential, really.
Absolutely. So settling through mediation became the smart strategic play. It let them avoid that financial cliff, get some certainty back into their business, and just move on from years of potentially very expensive, very distracting legal fights. Sometimes winning a battle isn't worth risking the whole war, you know?
So after all that fighting, months of legal maneuvering, they finally reached a deal. Both sides quietly agreed through mediation earlier this month, told the court on a Tuesday. Pretty low-key announcement for something potentially industry-changing.
Very low-key. And while we don't know the exact dollar amounts, those details are confidential, everyone involved is calling it historic, which strongly suggests it's not just pocket change. There's almost certainly compensation for the authors, acknowledging the value of their work. But maybe even more important is that this settlement likely sets up new rules, new frameworks for how AI companies need to get their training data from now on. This is one of the first big ones in AI copyright litigation. It sets a massive precedent.
A real turning point.
Definitely. A shift from conflict towards, well, maybe a new kind of negotiated existence.
Okay, so what's Anthropic saying publicly now? How are they positioning themselves after this? Our sources say they've agreed to keep and actually strengthen their safeguards against copyright infringement in future AI models. That sounds like a pretty big public commitment.
It is. And they're also talking about working with rights holders now,
Yeah.
collaboratively, resolving disputes in good faith. It's not just playing defense after getting sued. It looks like Anthropic is trying to position itself as a leader here, like setting the standard for doing AI development responsibly, respecting IP.
Trying to change the narrative a bit.
Perhaps signaling a shift from maybe being seen as confrontational to being more cooperative,
Yeah.
acknowledging creators have a stake in this whole ecosystem.
But this can't just be about Anthropic, can it? This settlement must be sending shockwaves through the whole AI industry. It feels like more than just one company's problem solved.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive wake-up call. For every company that's using or even thinking about using unlicensed data for training AI, this isn't just about maybe having to pay damages later. It could force a fundamental rethink of how they even get data in the first place.
Like the whole pipeline.
Exactly. Maybe we'll see less scraping the web and more, I don't know, complex licensing deals, direct negotiations, maybe even blockchain stuff to track rights. It definitely sets clearer expectations now for sourcing data responsibly, and it gives a strong signal about how future fights between creators and AI companies might play out. Like our sources say, the way this case resolved could really define how AI and creative industries manage to coexist over the next decade. It's a really critical moment for you to watch if you're interested in how tech is reshaping things. The rules are being written as we speak.
And yet, despite all this legal drama, Anthropic didn't just stop innovating, did they? It's not like they shut down development. In fact, it's quite striking. On the same day the settlement was announced, that Tuesday, they started previewing Claude for Chrome, a new browser AI assistant, giving early access to some subscribers. That's quite a move, isn't it? Sending a message.
It's a really key point, I think. It shows Anthropic trying to walk this line, pushing innovation hard, while also trying to show they're complying legally now. Releasing something new right then signals that, yes, breakthrough AI can keep happening. We can still get cool features like web browsing help or content analysis, but it has to happen within these clearer, more defined legal boundaries. It suggests responsible AI development isn't a roadblock to progress.
But maybe part of the foundation for it.
Exactly. It needs to be part of the design, not an afterthought, building a future for AI where the law is baked in from the start.
Okay, let's just quickly recap the journey we've covered. It's been quite a ride. It started with that huge lawsuit, authors taking a stand over alleged mass infringement, raising really deep concerns. Then came that surprising court ruling, the transformative use idea, which highlighted just how tricky these legal questions are with new tech.
Very complex.
That complexity pushed them into intense mediation, working behind the scenes to find some common ground, which finally led to this historic settlement we've been discussing. And then, boom, on the same day, a new product, Claude for Chrome, launches under this new reality. It really maps a path from confrontation to, well, hopefully something more like collaboration.
Yeah, and looking back, this whole deep dive gives us some critical takeaways for you to consider as all this unfolds. First, it definitely sets some important guideposts for future AI copyright cases, makes the legal waters a bit less murky. Second, it hints at new ways creators and AI companies might actually work together, moving past just being enemies towards maybe, mutually beneficial setups. And maybe most importantly, it shows that cutting-edge AI can be developed while still respecting intellectual property. It proves innovation and ethics don't have to be opposites. They can and probably must go hand in hand. In this case, it might really be remembered as a turning point where AI development started trying to get in sync with the creative rights that have always protected human ingenuity.
So, the big question then for you listening as we move deeper into this AI shaped world, what does this all mean? How do you think we as a society strike that balance? How do we encourage all the incredible potential of AI while also making absolutely sure that human creativity, human intellectual property is genuinely valued, fairly paid for, and properly protected? It's a really fascinating balancing act, isn't it? A complex challenge, and definitely one we'll all be wrestling with for a long time to come.